Hello and welcome to episode 253 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is November 18th, 2024. Today I'm wearing my fragmentation shawl by Stephen West, and that's a shawl pattern that starts up here with this little half circle. And then the whole shawl is knit in different stripes, but you attach them as you go. And if you follow the pattern as written, you use, I think, 7 different colors. And then you always knit the same amount of rows for each of the colors. And then you repeat them in a certain order. And then when you start the second stripe, you start with the second color or the last one, but not the same that you did before, so that the colors are always offset by 1. Now, I really like the shawl and I like the idea, but I did not like the idea of using 7 different colors. So when Opal came out with this in the beauty series, they had these colors that had very clear stripes. So I thought if I use this yarn and then I just start every segment at a different color, I should sort of get the same effect. And it sort of worked. It didn't work perfectly because these colors were so little that they were partly less than a row later on. So I had to start a second time after at first I just wanted to offset by these colors, but then I realized this doesn't work. So I had to treat this as one color and then one of the 3 main colors as the other color. It's a bit difficult to explain, but what I'm trying to say is that I did sort of put the colors, offset them by 1, so that if you look at the different segments, they always go down or up 1 segment for each of the stripes. And I'm really happy how it worked out. It doesn't work out perfectly, so sometimes they don't line up exactly where they're supposed to line up, but I don't think it matters. And I'm very happy with the overall effect of the shawl. I really like the shape of the shawl. It's like a half circle, but a little more than a half circle. So the ends sort of turn up a little bit so they stay on the shoulder a lot nicer than with the normal straight edge on your half circle or a triangular shawl. I really like this, the yarn of the Opal Beauty series. It's a bit softer than the normal yarn by Opal, which I would also wear next to skin, but this is just a bit nicer. Yeah, really nice shawl. Back when I bought the pattern, I not only bought this pattern, but I also bought the whole ebook, and I don't think I've knit any of the other patterns, even though I like most of them. So maybe at some point I'll be able to knit more out of that ebook. So that's a shawl I'm wearing, and this is the mohair silk dress I'm wearing today. This is a yarn by Lana Grossa. It's their silk hair color, I think is what is it? Silk hair. It's silk hair something. The normal silk hair is just a solid color. And then if you buy the colorful yarn, it's silk hair, either color or something. I don't know. And the pattern is also by Lana Grossa. It's out of one of their magazines. And it's a fairly long dress. And I'm not going to stand on my chair today because it's very straight and simple. It's not that exciting to look at. But I really like it. My sister gave this yarn to me as a present because she knew I liked the colors. And I think she gave me 4 50-gram balls. And I only used 2 of them for this dress because it doesn't have any sleeves. And even though it's fairly long, it has a very good yardage. So I still have more yarn. And I was always thinking of either doing a shawl with the other 2 balls, or I could do like a bolero jacket kind of thing that I could wear on top of the dress. Someday, maybe. We'll see. Yeah, so much to what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. And I have 2 finished objects today. And I'm really excited, especially for the bigger project and the older project that I hadn't really expected to finish last week. But that's the Mamaki dress that I talked about last week. I didn't show it to you because I forgot to bring it. And there wasn't a big change. But when I picked it up and started knitting again, I realized I was really close to finishing. So I decided to spend the time and finish the dress. And one of the difficulties about finishing it was that I had the yarn on this cone and I hadn't weighed the whole cone before I started knitting. So I knew it was 500 grams of yarn, but I didn't know what this weighed. So even though I wrote down what the whole thing weighed for every round that I knit in the end, as I didn't know how much this weighed, it was a bit difficult. So people were writing to me and telling me it probably weighs somewhere between 35 and 40 grams. So I decided to think it was 40 grams to be on the safe side. And then it took about 2 grams to do one round in the end. So at that point, I knew I could knit about 10 rounds in stockinette and then 10 rounds of ribbing. And then I thought if I have 10 rounds of ribbing, I could do 8 rounds and then have the yarn for 2 rounds to cast off. But then I did all that and I still had yarn on the cone. So I knit another round of ribbing and I knit another round of ribbing. Not quite sure I did another one, but at some point I decided now I have to cast off. And this is what I have left after casting off all the stitches. And I did an elastic cast off, not the surprisingly stretchy one, but a different one. I just wanted to make sure it's not too tight so I can still move around and walk. But it was cutting it really close. I have 2.2 grams of yarn left, and that actually weighed 30 grams. So it's a little less. That's why I could knit more than I had expected. And this, I have to get up again, is my finished Mamaki dress. And it's not really a dress. It's more like a tunic. So it's shorter than the dress I'm wearing, but it's longer than a normal pullover. So I think tunic describes it rather correctly. I did not get the increase and decrease line to meet. So the edge down here is not really straight. It sort of goes up a little bit this way, but I don't think that matters. And I'm so glad I got the cast off done the way I started. I didn't have to undo it again. I've woven in all the ends, but I haven't cut them off yet because I haven't washed it yet. So that's what I'm going to do this week. I want to wash this and I'll wash it by hand because I'm not exactly sure what the different yarns in here are because it's ages ago that I bought it. And yeah, and I did the elastic cast off because the tunic always goes to about mid-thigh. So when I'm walking around, this has to move around. So that's why I cast it off this way. Yeah, really happy. I used almost all of my 500 grams of yarn that I had wound on the cone in Hamburg at the Wolf Fabric. Do you say that? I don't know. It's not a proper yarn shop, but it's where they produce yarns, and they have lots and lots of those cones with very thin yarn. And you can pick out different cones and you can say, okay, I want those 6 strands made into one yarn. And it's not twisted, so it's not applied or anything. You just have all the strands next to each other. So knitting, I always had to pay attention to grab all 6 strands. But it also means it's a unique yarn. It's one of a kind. And I don't think anybody else would pick the exact same 6 cones to have their yarn made. So it's a very special thing, and I'm really, really happy that it's now finished after I had the yarn for such a long time. I finally knit something with it. And next week I'll be wearing this, and I'm really looking forward to showing it to you on me. So that was the surprise finished object, and I'm really glad it's done. The other finished object and finished project are the neon Shorty socks. I knit one pair for my nephew where I used the tiger colorway in the Opal Rainforest series, and I put a little neon orange at the beginning, round the heel and round the toe, and they sort of ended up being the same without me trying. It was just coincidence. And then I knit this for his girlfriend. I knit the I think it's a ladybug colorway out of the Rainforest series, and I put some neon pink at the beginning around the heel and round the toe. It's almost invisible around the toe. And again, they ended up being the same, almost the same. It's almost perfectly the same. I think the only difference is really at the heel, where here it sits perfectly in between the white and the gray, and here it's in the gray. But otherwise, they really are the same. And now I finished both pairs. This project is completed, and I'm really happy, and I have a nice Christmas present for the two of them. So these are all my finished projects. And at first I thought I'd only started one, which would have been great, but no, I started 2 projects. So, but at least it's in balance. I'm not casting on more than I'm finishing. Okay, on to works in progress and new projects. As for socks, the only other sock I knit on last week is her socks from my sock couple, and I finished her first sock and I started the second. And again, they are not the same, but it's also different than his socks. So with his socks, I ended up having the colorway completely different. So like as if I had the dark spots and the light spots opposite. But with these socks, it's just offset a tiny little bit. So if I hold it like this, you can see it is not the same. But if I'd gone like this, this would have been the same. So I could have, I couldn't have. If I'd taken everything off, I would have had to take all this off. No, I just said the way it comes, and they're just offset for a little bit, and that's fine. I finished most of the leg, and yeah, I still have plenty of time to finish them and send them off for Christmas. So I'm really happy about that. But these 6-ply socks really work up quite a bit quicker than the 4-ply socks. So I'm really happy about that. So as I said, the only other sock I worked on last week. Now the first new project is a small sock yarn project. So I'm showing it now. And that's one that I already announced last week. And that's the new Gnome. As I said last week, the first knit along for one of the book gnomes for this one started last week. It was supposed to start at the beginning of November, but because there was some people had trouble getting their book because it wasn't being sent out for some reason. That's why she postponed it a little bit. Excuse me. So that's why the knit along started last week. And last week we were supposed to knit the hat. This week we can knit the body. And then the week after we can do the small bits, the beard, the nose, the arms, and the pockets, especially the pockets. And yeah, so I knit the hat, and I think I showed you the yarn last time. It's the leftover yarn from the square that my sister crocheted. Yep, she crocheted. And it's a fairly old colorway by by Opal. And it's one with many, many colors in them. And when I was almost finished with the hat, I realized that I would finish with the white and green bit, and I would not get to the red bit. And there was already a lot of different colors down here, and I did want to have the red. So instead of finishing the hat where the pattern says to finish, I just kept knitting the I cord, and now I can make this little knot at the top of the hat. And I really like it that there's this red, it's almost as if I made a pom-pom or something for the hat. So I have this red little knot on top of this green-white bit. And then I have this nice purple and pink and blue down here. Really happy with the hat of the gnome. Now I have to pick up stitches, and this is my color for the body. It's a fairly simple color. And last week I said I wanted to do the beard and nose in white yarn. I might change my mind. I'm not quite sure, so I'm not promising anything, but I'm still thinking about that. But for this week, I want to knit the body. So that was that. And then I continued knitting on the preview knit for Woolly Wormhead. And I had been thinking about the deadline. I'd forgotten what the deadline was and I couldn't find it anywhere. And today we got an email saying that the deadline is already passed. But because she had difficulty with her organization and with some technical problems, she postponed the deadline for this preview knit until tomorrow. And as you can see, I haven't finished. I'm now in the 6th repeat of the pattern, and I think the size I want to knit are 8 repeats, so I'm still missing 2.5 repeats, right? Yep. So I'll be knitting them today and tomorrow so that I can finish it in time. And then there's a form that I have to fill out that I don't know where it is. I have to find that somewhere. But then I hope to finish it in time. I can fill out the form, and I'll have a finished object next week. Yeah. No, I was just thinking if I should wear it with the Mamaki dress tunic next week, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. Maybe I'll just have it finished and wear it the week after. That should be fine too. And still enjoy the knitting. It's just that I have to look at the pattern all the time. But I think this project is worth looking at the pattern. And I think the deadline also means that the pattern is going to be available sometime this week. So I hope by next week I can tell you the pattern has been published. And if you are interested, you can get it for yourself. So that is that. And then the other cowl I'm knitting, that's part of the pattern battle with one of the Opal Abo, the subscription colorways. I didn't do a lot. I think I knit the 2nd repeat of this pattern. This is such an easy on-the-go project. I just wasn't on the go a lot last week, so that's why I didn't get a lot done. But I really enjoy knitting, and I think last week I told you that after 5 of these repeats, there are some short rows and there's a knitted on lace edge. I'm really looking forward to them, but I also thought you could just do this bit for as long as you like and have a beautiful cowl without doing all the other things. And my sister likes this bit of the pattern, so I could imagine that maybe she will do that at some point and not bother about the more complicated bits, even though I'm looking forward to knitting them. Yeah, that's that. Then I continued knitting on the Vina Hot Pulover a tiny little bit. I was sort of hoping to finish the sleeve so I wouldn't have yarn hanging off of it, but nowhere near. I think I finished somewhere around here last week and I just did those few rounds, but I knit them, so I thought I can show them, but nothing else happened. I can try and finish the sleeve this week. We'll see if that works or not. But now I'm coming to the 2nd new project, and that's one that I had been planning for quite a while, and now finally I sat down and cast it on. And to talk about that project, I want to show you a new book that I got from the publisher. So I didn't have to pay for it. They gave it to me so I could talk about it on the podcast. And I just wanted to mention that I got it for free. I'm still telling you my honest opinion. I forgot to check the original title. The original title is Arctic Knits, Jumpers, Socks, Hats and Mittens. So it's definitely in English. I don't think I know how to pronounce the author's name. It's probably something like Wei Qian Chang. Not very good with Chinese names. I think the name is Chinese, but she lives in northern Canada. And the book is called Arctic Knits in German as well, but then it has the German subtitle, and it's a beautiful book. So the pullover that you see here, I think that's actually the one I'm knitting. Yeah, I think I'm knitting this one. And all the patterns in the book are worked with these neutral colors. And she says she loves to knit the colors of the Arctic landscape. And you can see a few more of the patterns here. There's a pullover and a hat with an alpaca on them. That's really nice. She has, I think this is again the pullover that I'm knitting, but is that a coordinating hat? I don't think so. I think the hat is a different pattern. And so you have pullovers in here. There are hats and socks and mittens in the book. So this again is the pullover that I am knitting, and this is the same pullover just in different colors. And at first I wanted to knit a dark version, but now I decided to knit the light gray version almost exactly as it's in the book. And the book has beautiful pictures, not only with the knits but also without the knits. All the pictures are beautiful. So you have pictures like this that just sort of evoke the landscape there that she likes to get her inspiration from. So this is a different pullover that's in the book with coordinating hats. And again, there are two different colorways, which I really like. So you get a different impression of what the pullover could look like if you use different colors. This is another pullover in the book with the different pattern. The different pullovers also use different yarns, so you have different gauges that you can use, which I think is very nice. So depending on what kind of yarn you have, you can find a pattern that fits. This is one of the gloves, and with the gloves she does the same thing as with the socks, that for one glove she uses the two colors this way, and then for the other she swaps them around. So you basically use the same amount of yarn for both of the colors, which I think is a fantastic idea, and you get different socks, and you know how much I like that. So this is one of the sock patterns out of the book. Beautiful socks, would love to knit them at some point. And I think the patterns in the book look like they are really well written. The charts are very easy to read. This is another hat pattern, I think, again with the pullover that I am knitting. So you can mix and match the different designs in the book. There's another sock pattern here. And again, the colors are reversed for the second sock. Just love it. And at first, when I looked at the book, what I said to my friends was, I wonder what these projects look like once I knit them with colorful Opal yarn. And at some point, I am going to knit one of the projects with colorful Opal yarn. But when I looked through the patterns, and I just like to read the whole book. So I always read the is it called forward? The beginning and the sort of flavor text that are in there. But I also like to read part of the patterns. Sometimes I'll read the whole pattern just because I'm curious how the patterns are written. And I always look at the gauges and things like that. So when I realized that pullover, the Arctic pullover, actually uses the same gauge as I get with the Westfalenwolle, that's when I made the decision to knit the first pullover out of the book with Westfalenwolle, because that's a German yarn that I am selling in my shop, and it comes in 4 different natural colors. They're not dyed, they're not superwash or processed in any way. It's just the natural yarn in these 4 natural colors. And for the Arctic pullover, you need 4 colors, so it just seemed perfect. And so when I started knitting, I just didn't gauge swatch because I knit the yarn before. I knew I was getting the right gauge, and the 2 smallest sizes start with the same number of stitches, so I knew I could just start. And as I said, I decided not to do a dark pullover with the light contrast colors, and one of the reasons is that the light colors are quite close in value, so there's not a big contrast between the 3, and this one is completely different, and I somehow didn't want to have 3 light contrast colors and then just the dark main color. So I thought it would look nicer with the light gray, and I knew I wanted main colors either to be light gray or dark gray because I'm not so much into the brownish colors, but I thought if I have the light gray as my main color and then those 3 as contrast colors, that seemed a better idea for some reason. So I cast on, I knit the ribbing, then I did the optional short rows to raise the back. So this is the back, this is the front. You can see I did some short rows, and then I started knitting the pattern. And a lot of those patterns always use only 2 colors per row, but she does not believe in that. So I've had at least 2 rounds already where I used 3 colors in one round. And in one of those rounds, I also had to do increases. So it's not really a beginner-friendly pattern, but once you've knit a few color work pullovers, you should be able to knit them. Now, the white and the light gray in this yarn are very similar. So here, this is a white stitch in between the light gray. Now, looking at it like this, I'm not quite sure it was worth the effort of knitting the dark gray, the light gray, and the white in one round if the white doesn't really show. So it does show a bit more in real life than on camera, but not a whole lot. But so what? It makes the pullover really warm because I have loads and loads of floats. Because if you knit with 3 colors, you have 2 floats all the time. Yeah, so that's the inside, that's the outside. I haven't knit a lot yet. I've done, I think, 2 increase rounds, and I have all 4 colors hanging off my project. I'm not cutting the yarn when I'm finished with it per round because I know I'll use it again. If there's a bigger stretch where I don't need the color, I might cut it off. But right now I'm using all colors fairly closely to each other. Then later, if I have these bigger bits, I might cut off one of the colors, but right now I don't. Now the yarn is fairly rustic. It's not like super soft, but that's really nice for a color work pullover because the floats sort of stay where they're supposed to stay, and they don't slip away, and it's really nice. It's a nice knit. I really enjoy knitting this, and I'm really looking forward to finishing the yoke. And then yeah, the yoke is a lot of fun to knit, and then the rest will be an easy knit. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping to be wearing this pullover this winter and not taking forever to finish it. And I'm knitting on 5mm needles, so that's another reason that this is a fairly fast knit. Yeah, so exciting new project, new book. That's, yeah, very, very good. Now, on to projects that you know. I have 2 more projects to talk about today. One of them is the Go Dynamo shawl by Stephen West, another Stephen West shawl. It's not a mystery anymore. I did not knit a whole lot on it last week, but I finished the first repeat of the mosaic part where it looks as if I was knitting color work with both my colors, but it's a slip stitch pattern, so you only knit with 1 color at a time. But because the colors get mixed up, I swapped my main color, which is a light turquoise, with other colors in between for the solid color. And at first I was a bit worried it might be too dark, but so far everybody has told me that they like the way the darker turquoise mixes in with all the other colors. And after this pattern is done, you knit quite a few decreases, which was really encouraging because it means I'm getting closer to the end. And now I have to repeat the pattern with these mini noops. I've done 2 of those. I will knit a 3rd one and then a few rows with the main color, and then I'll repeat this color, and then I'll repeat the mini noops for a 3rd time, and then the knitting will be done. So looking forward to that. And then to the last project for today, that's the crochet along that we are doing on this channel, where we crochet spiral granny squares or granny hexagons or granny whatevers. And last week I didn't show it to you because I couldn't make up my mind how to finish it off. And I had been thinking of using a solid color to go around the outside of this very colorful square that I started with leftover yarns, but then used full balls of yarn to continue. And I just couldn't make up my mind which color to use. And then I was looking at the at this ball of yarn in the series Lieblingsplatz, which means favorite spot. And now that I'm saying it, I'm wondering whether I've shown it before. Did I show the whole series already? I think so. Well, it's getting on. I'm not showing it today anyway, but I saw this color and I realized that all the colors in this ball of yarn are already in my square. So that would be the perfect ball to finish the square off. So that's what I started doing. I've already done, I think, 1 or 1.5 rounds with this color. And as you can see, all the colors really blend nicely with the yarn that I used before. And I'm really happy with that decision. And I'm not going to put in beads because I'm still thinking of maybe giving this away as a baby blanket. And then I think it'd be nicer without the beads. And yeah, so the plan right now is to crochet until I've crocheted about 3 rounds with this yarn, and I'll finish the 60th round. I like round numbers like that. And then maybe I can finish those last rounds this week, and then this could also be finished next week. If I finish a shawl and a cowl next week, I can't wear both the week after. Not a big problem. I can wear one of them the week after that, something like that. Yeah, so that's the crochet along. That's what I crocheted last week. That's everything I crocheted and knit last week. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!